Okay, I am here today with Bryan Wilks, who you guys are going to be especially, I think, enjoying this podcast today. This channel, most people that watch this are relocation buyers, people that are just kind of researching Tulsa and thinking, okay, I might want to move to Tulsa. And so I tell them all about Tulsa, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and they get to see Tulsa through my eyes. But I thought that it would be fantastic to bring in other people and let them see Tulsa through other people's eyes. So you are an exciting guest because I know that there's going to be some great things that you say about Tulsa, but you have a special love for a suburb. So let's talk about, usually I say, what is your favorite thing about Tulsa? So let's keep with that.
Yeah, so I think it's not just my favorite thing, but I'm a data guy, right? So I look at the data, and I think a lot of people are migrating post-COVID because they've, worked from home. We always say the buyer, if you will, is always the 35-year-old female, right? She really is. We call them the workday drive mom because they were driving to work pre-COVID, but now after COVID, they're really not going to work anymore. I mean, they're working from home.
Right.
So we see a big surge of people that are moving from major markets, like a Dallas, which makes you brilliant because you're on the cutting edge of this, right?
Right.
And they're moving to places like Tulsa because they want things more local. And we definitely have a really connected, really kind of more intimate local scene in Tulsa.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about that a little bit since you said data.
Yeah.
So tell me what you do to know all this data. Tell me a little bit about you, your background.
Sure. Well, I'm a master's in computer science.
Okay.
And so my business is a technology business, and we hire a lot of business analysts. So one of the things we look at is taking a business analyst and saying, hey, look at what's called ESRI data, which is just a massive amount of consumer data, and tell us what people want. And tell us where there's a void, tell us where there's an opportunity. So that's what we do with the data. And then we'll develop either a community or real estate around that, around the consumer, rather than, hey, you or I go in and say, we think we need an ice cream shop here, or we think we need a boutique here. We really are pretty good at saying, hey, this is what the consumer wants, and working backwards.
Right. Okay. And so we came together because you are basically the face of the 10 District.
That's
and,
right.
That is Jenks downtown area.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. So Jenks has the #1, and you may argue with this because you're a Sapulpa gal, the #1 school district in the state of Oklahoma. What's happened in Jenks is because of that, we're only a town of 23,000 people. It's one of the largest schools in Oklahoma, only 23,000 people with explosive growth. And so what's happened is because of our excellent public schools, #1 is we got a population rise. And, but the problem is all of our people don't shop in Jenks. They shop in other places. And so our sales tax has gone like this. And we're trying to correct that. We're trying to bring that back. And we believe consumers want to bring that back in a way that's more experiential. It takes old buildings, like we've invested in 100-year-old brick buildings, beautiful original pine brick, and they want a quaint experience where they can shop that's hyper-local, and their kids can go to the best school district in the state of Oklahoma. We're 1 block away from the school, downtown Jenks is. And we call it the 10 District because it's 10 blocks, right? So it's pretty easy to understand. The math is simple.
Okay. So now, are you born and raised in Jenks?
No, I moved here from Washington, D.C., worked in Capitol Hill for a while, and my wife and I moved here because why people call you, right? The cost of living was really good, really nice community to grow up in, top schools, all that kind of good stuff. So we moved here from Washington, D.C. I grew up in Oklahoma.
Okay.
Went to school in California, Boston, other places, and then worked in Washington. And I won't tell you for who, because that'll at least divide the whole audience if I say, but they can probably Google it. But then came back to Jenks. We always thought you're from Sand Springs. So, like when you're growing up in Oklahoma and you hear the word Jenks, you always, if I go to Jenks, I've made it.
Yeah.
I have arrived. And we haven't, but we feel that we kind of talk ourselves into it. So we always wanted to move to Jenks. We really did.
Okay. So then the numbers, it worked out, and
oh yeah.
with your business, you're like, we're investing here, we're starting something here.
That's right. Yeah.
And that was really, from what I understand, and I don't have a huge, history or perspective on the 10 District, on how it's evolved, but I know that it has been, growing, drastically these past couple of years and really pushing. And, there's a lot of exciting things going on. So, tell me about that journey.
Well, first of all, it's a podcast, so you're just supposed to entertain. But let's talk about facts. Let's talk about results, because I think those still matter, right? So in the last 2 years, we have $1 billion of development going on in and around the 10 District. So nice results, right? And in addition to that, we've seen property owners that were disengaged. It doesn't take much to travel around America and see these old, really cool downtowns that every one of your people who watch this podcast go, man, wouldn't it be cool to have a loft up there?
Yes.
But prior to the 10 District, there's really no incentive for buildings owners to do that, because they really didn't see the vision of what the consumer, because we studied the consumer data. And now building owners, we had up to 50% of our downtown almost abandoned.
Yeah.
People don't realize that. If you walk down there, you can start to see it, and people don't realize that until they start to really pay attention. We weren't going anywhere good. But now almost every building owner is engaged in revitalizing their building. So the building owners are coming back. They're more engaged. Some of them from out of town. But now they know because of all the collective work we've done. And so we've got development going on. We've got builders restoring those old, because it'd just be easier to tear those buildings down.
Yes.
But that charm is always there. So, and we also, the city just announced a master plan. We'd never had a master plan in the whole history of Jenks. And now we have a master plan where the city's going to come invest in new sidewalks, new roads.
That's exciting.
It's very exciting. And those little things like the Rose District, Utica, the places we love and we go to and have dinner with our significant other. We think in the next 2 or 3 years, as a result of these last 2 years, that'll come back. We didn't even have a merchants association before.
Okay, so
they just came back.
So how many people were involved in getting this together? Like, how did it start? How did it evolve?
Well, out of respect, having worked in politics, I thought, hey, the leader of the city is the mayor. We went to the mayor first and said, hey, we might have some talents and skill sets to kind of brand this thing, bring it to life. He's like, go for it. Is it free? We're like, absolutely, it's free. So we're not connected to the city in any way whatsoever. But we started with the mayor. We went to every city councilor, went to the city manager, went to the Jenks Chamber of Commerce. We met with as many merchants as we could. We do have day jobs. Do we meet with everyone? Probably not. And then as you know, we have a pretty good social media following that we poll and get a lot of interesting comments on social media. I'm sure you do too. We won't talk about those today. But I think the art of social media is kind of listening. And so we don't make any judgments. And it's been 2 years of presenting, listening, refining, presenting, listening, refining.
Yeah, that's so exciting to see
a long path, actually.
Yeah, to see it all coming together.
Yeah.
And talk about some of the stores that are coming that you guys have, put there. It's exciting. Tell us about it.
It is. You need to come shop.
Yes.
Because I think you're in our market.
I am.
I think there'll be a return on investment in this podcast.
I think there will be, for sure. Yeah.
So what we found is that if we had the right data and we could show brands that there was potential, that they would come. We guessed on that. It's hard to visualize when you come down to downtown and there's an abandoned building or an older building that might be booth rental that's really deteriorated and you can't see the brick and you can't see all these wonderful things. It's hard to imagine that we could get some awesome brands. But Lululemon's a great example.
Yes.
We call Lululemon. We literally called them on the phone, please come down here. And we showed them the data and they said, hey, we want you as a strategic partner. So we have a shop downtown that's at 3-in-1, first of its kind. It has Lululemon, Free People Movement, and Inheritance Juice. You will not find that in all of Tulsa.
Yeah,
that was a big move.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was the first national brand that made its. First national brand of any size and of scale in downtown Tulsa or downtown Jenks, in the 10 District. Yeah.
So, how long do you think it will take data, to catch up to show, okay, this was a great idea, have more come? Like, how long do you see that taking to have more people?
Yeah, well, you got a big following, so it's one thing to have the data. It's another thing for people to be aware of what's going on. And thanks to you and people like you that have taken interest in this initiative, in this citizen-led initiative. I think when people hear, there's a Lulu in downtown Jenks.
Yeah.
Oh, McNelly's group. You know, Elliot Nelson, who my business partner Shay knows, is coming to Jenks too with the restaurant concept there. So it's about to open too. He's invested a lot of money in it. Invested a lot of money in Jenks. So you get people like that. Plus you get some awareness on well-viewed channels like yours, and then all of a sudden we've got momentum. Success breeds success.
Yes.
Yep.
There's definitely a lot of momentum. Okay.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the antique stores? Because
We can talk about 'em.
Jenks is still, the antique capital,
Absolutely.
of Oklahoma. And
Sure.
is it my understanding that we're not trying to make that go away? Like that's still a part?
Actually, I would say if you look at the business of that in the last 10 years, that hasn't been true. I think that's a common misbelief. I don't know who the person is, but they're really smart. They said, hey, I can take some square footage and I can set up an antique shop that really is a booth rental shop. So, you have storage units. They're pretty lucrative because you don't do anything. You just offer them to people to put their stuff in. And that's what was going on in Jenks. Still goes on in Jenks.
Okay.
Really, we were the booth renting capital of the world. There's only one true antique provider in downtown Jenks, and that's American Heritage Antiques. His name's James. We think he can exist alongside of Lululemon. You know that experience, that whole experience. We see it in other towns. What we don't think is sustainable is booth rental.
Okay.
And the reason why we don't think it's sustainable, great profit model for the building owner. But ask me how much sales tax it generates.
Okay.
Not a lot.
Okay.
And so we were trying to change that game. Jenks has not been the antique capital of the world for some time. It's been the booth renting capital of the world.
Okay.
Because we got a lot of people in downtown Jenks that are, we want to have a little booth that they don't have to pay a lot of money to, but you multiply that out times 30 booths, and now you've got yourself a lot of booth rental.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's turn a little bit to the foot traffic and how many people go through Jenks, through Main Street. Like, talk about that a little bit.
Great question. We didn't talk about this before, but you're asking some crazy good questions. So when you look at the data, and again, I encourage people to doubt us and say, hey, I'll look up, but it's ESRI data. And there's also CoStar data. And what's cool is there are satellites, pretty creepy, that will measure traffic data all the time, right? You don't need little things on the road anymore. They measure it all the time. And they sell that data, and we bought it. So let's just compare the 10 District to two other really well-known districts. The Rose District gets about 6,000 to 7,000 cars a day that go through it.
Okay.
Utica gets about 14. The 10 District, 20,000 a day.
Wow.
And our income levels of those people are much higher. And our void analysis, meaning they're going other places, they are buying stuff. They're going through downtown Jenks. They're buying stuff in other places, but they're not spending it in downtown, is really high. We are, like for restaurants, the average spend is in the Rose District, like $1,200 a month. Ours is $2,000. It has every dynamic that Utica has and some.
Okay.
To give you some perspective.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to see in 6 months, in
Yeah.
a year, even in 3 months,
I
like
know.
how, where this is going.
You walked it, right?
Yeah.
You literally
Yes.
went down there.
Yes.
And you walked it. Did you notice a change?
Yes. Yeah, I really did. Because the last time I was in downtown Jenks, I drive through there
Yeah,
all
sure.
the time. Maggie's was probably
Maggie's is great.
Yes.
Staple.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like last year, I think I was
Yeah.
at Maggie's. And I love driving through Main Street, and I love seeing there's some plant shops and the old buildings. Like, it's super cool. But you do, you feel like, man, this is Jenks downtown.
I know.
But so, yeah, to see the change, to see the mural, to see the businesses, the bike shops, it's neat to see, what it's going to be. And I think that, that is something that Jenks does need. And would be so great, like with the location and close to Tulsa.
Yeah. Well, I think you hit on a good point. When you think of Jenks, we're both Oklahoma kids,
Yeah.
right? When you think of Jenks, you think excellence.
Yes.
So if I brought you into the football stadium, you're like, yeah, for sure, that's Jenks. Then I drove you down to downtown Jenks in the past 5 years, 10 years. You'd go, that's Jenks. And we're getting our butts kicked. If this is a football game, Broken Arrow is run ruling us.
They are.
And 2 years ago, we said, we're going to invest and we're going to change this game. I don't care if people like the name, that don't like the name, like some of the stuff we do. We're focused on one thing, and that is doubling the business in downtown Jenks. And and our guide is one person, and that is the consumer. I tend to ignore politicians. I tend to ignore people that have tried before, that have so much energy spent towards things that aren't consumer related. I completely ignore them, right or wrong. And we are 100% focused on bringing the Jenks consumer back to downtown Jenks. And that's what we do.
And you're seeing that, and it's happening.
Yeah.
And I'm a really big believer in, putting things out there, taking the action and doing them and seeing them evolve. And when you have that many people behind it wanting, the same vision that, things might not go perfectly, but you're going to get to your end destination. Like, it's going to happen. So it's exciting to see, how that will turn out. And you said $1 billion.
I agree. Yeah, $1 billion. And, we're featured on the cover of Tulsa World. They could put anybody on the cover of Tulsa World, the business section last week. But Jenks is getting more exposure. It's not about us. It's really about, we're promoting downtown everywhere, And I'll say, taking action. That's a great point. Like, you're doing this. Like, you're getting people to come to Tulsa, which is amazing. I hope I hope Jenks is your first option. It should be. That's the best place to live in Tulsa. That's no question. But you look at a company like Apple, and everybody can understand this. It's like, what a dumb name, Apple. Why not banana? Or pear, or, now we kind of think of it as a household name. I think Jenks has to focus on delivering the results and taking action right now, regardless of all of our history, the names, what we want to call it, all the scoreboard of the past. And we have to say, it's time to act. And that's where our focus needs to be. And even a name as bad as Apple can develop a really good computer and change, as Steve Jobs would say, their little tiny corner of the universe. Of course, theirs is a lot bigger than ours, but our goal is to, all our infrastructure, firefighter pay, police pay, every bit of infrastructure we have in Jenks is dependent on sales tax. Every bit. So I've talked to firefighters in Jenks. They show up to a fire, there's 1 or 2 of them. Compare that to Tulsa, there's 10 of them. Okay?
Yeah.
So it matters to our community, and towns can die. Just ask the folks in Detroit. So it's a big deal. It's not a small deal, it's a big idea.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so why would we've talked about the schools, of why people would want to move to Jenks, best schools. Yeah. Why else? Like, what are other reasons that people would want to move to Jenks? Like, tell me about your neighborhood. Tell me about, where you live in Jenks. You don't have to name your exact neighborhood. Although some people, would like to know, like specifically looking at other neighborhoods. Like, tell us about it. What do you like about it? Like, what's special?
It's such a good question because, you have $1 billion of development. You go, well, the people that moved here, and we listen a lot, right? The people that moved here were looking for good quality schools in a quaint suburb town. Quiet, a little more quiet, a little more charm to it. That's why they moved there. Kind of away from the hustle and bustle of downtown Tulsa. But they still want their own, post-COVID, they still want their own vibe, right? And that's what we have. We have a lot of open land, a lot of greenery. You can walk downtown and there's music playing. You don't hear a lot of traffic. And so one of the things that people have said is, we don't want 13-story apartment buildings. We don't want huge corporations here. We want a good place where you can live and raise a family and go on a nice date with your wife and buy a lot of cool stuff, right? And that's really what Jenks is. It's a little bit of a way from, people move from Dallas like, oh, the hustle and bustle of Tulsa, no big deal. But after a while, you start going, well, if I move to Tulsa, and I love Tulsa, there's great parts of Tulsa, but where else in the Tulsa area But Jenks, can you find a school system that is as good as a private school? Some people definitely argue that. That has the potential to serve kind of all your needs. Take your kid to the local baseball field. It's like a 1-minute drive. You have your own little coffee shop that you go to every day. You get on Highway 75, you're 5 minutes away. There's just so many great things about Jenks, and that's why it's grown so quickly.
Yeah.
It has a lot of opportunity for people, both in education and sports and all these things, a lot of upside, and pretty diverse, not just sports, but academic challenges.
Yeah, fine arts.
Fine arts. I've heard people say, I sent my kid to a private school and they didn't have near the attention that they had at Jenks. So that everybody knows their name too. There's only 23,000 some odd people. So it's very unique. I would say it's the most unique town in the state from that standpoint.
Okay, so what is your favorite, what's your favorite Jenks neighborhood?
Probably Yorktown.
Yorktown, yeah.
You know Yorktown? I think a lot of people like Yorktown because the quality of life is just so good. If you're the kind of person, you're a 35, what we say is the workday drive mom, back to that has a career, or maybe you're doing something on the side, or you're managing 1-2 kids, something like that, and your husband's working too, and you just want the good old days where you just kind of let your kid out and they just kind of roam. That's Yorktown.
Yeah.
That's Yorktown. We're talking about 1,000 kids. The houses are beautiful. The people are really friendly. I just got invited by their HOA to come speak, and I'm so excited. I'm bringing a bunch of free Lululemon. I'm really going to muck it up because they're our buyer, right? And they really enjoy that kind of family atmosphere. It's got a neighborhood pool. It's got a neighborhood park. The houses are just so well done. It's really a great place.
Yeah.
My favorite neighborhood.
Yeah, Yorktown is a great neighborhood.
Yeah.
Tulsa, the Tulsa area doesn't have a lot of master plan communities. So the Jenks, Jenks, Bixby, South Tulsa area, like that's the biggest one. You've got Owasso, Stone Canyon, then you've got Broken Arrow, Forest Ridge, and Yorktown is, that area. So,
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
it's
right.
a great.
It's very popular too. Like everyone's vying to get in it.
Yes, people want to live in Yorktown.
It's
and
a
they
trend.
have the bunco groups and.
It's the cool people.
Yeah.
I wasn't very popular in high school. I'm sure you were. I wasn't. So it's like it's a second chance to be cool again. Kind of neighborhood. So it's a good neighborhood.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to take the neighborhood situation and I'm going to just change it a tiny bit.
Yeah.
And so, if you could wave a magic wand.
Right.
And this doesn't have to be just Jenks, this is about Tulsa, and live anywhere in any neighborhood that you wanted to live, what neighborhood would that be?
Oh, it's got to be Utica.
Utica, yeah.
I mean, it's just hard to beat Utica. So well done. And I think that's what our consumer base wants in Jenks, to be honest with you, because it's quaint, easily accessible from multiple directions, right? You got a good easy in, easy out. Not overdone. It's got an anchor in the hospital, kind of like we have an anchor in our public school, like really one block over. It's got a lot of good things working for it. It has longevity. So we've been visited in the 10 District from Jordan Helmrich, and his grandfather started Utica. And most people don't understand it was done with such care. It wasn't all about profit. Like really arranged in such a way where Mr. Helmrich, I mean, of course, he had a lot of other endeavors, that provided financially for him. But he said he'd be out there in his overalls cutting trees himself. And you can see that care in that whole area there. So well designed, not overdone, not underdone, the right kind of brands. It's nothing like Utica. I mean, as I told you before, I was in the country music business for just a minute. And some big stars, when they came to Tulsa State, in my pickup, they'd be like, let's go to Utica. I'd be like, how do you know Utica? And it's just one of those places that's really special. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So we didn't actually tell the viewers about your country music background.
I don't know.
Let's just go a tiny bit. Let's talk about it a tiny bit.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, for a short stay, I worked in Nashville with a guy named Ronnie Dunn from Brooks and Dunn. And we started a record label together called Little Willie Records. And I love Ronnie. He's one of the best human beings I've ever met. And he named it Little Willie Records because he had like a statue, a Little Willie Nelson statue. So it was Little Willie Records. And we thought that was I think a lot of people misunderstand about how things happen in Nashville. They think, there's just really smart people. Actually, there's a lot of just crazy people like, hey, you like that Little Willie statue? Let's name it Little Willie Records. And so we kind of did that for a while. The music business is hard to make a profit at.
Yeah.
And we partnered with a guy named Brian Halligan and David Meerman, who own a company called HubSpot, and had some good times all the way from Boston to Nashville to try to really reinvent the country music business. And we made a lot of headway using technology and streaming. And it was many years ago, right? So we were kind of ahead of the game and just had a lot of fun doing it. And we didn't make a lot of money, but we had a ton of fun doing that. And we did cool things too, like put on the tornado relief effort when the big tornadoes came through Oklahoma at
really?
the stadium at Oklahoma, at University of Oklahoma Stadium, where Garth's come back. We do some business with Garth as well, and he was kind enough to come out there and host that as well. So just fun stuff, you're broke, but you're having fun, kind of stage of your life.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Is music still a part of your life right now?
Yeah, so I have 3 kids. We sing music in the car. Yeah, absolutely. Big part of my life. And I'm a very good singer in the shower. I'm one of the best, I think.
Okay. Well.
Yeah, but when I walk out of the shower, it just disappears. I don't know, just the acoustics.
We'll have to ask your wife. We'll have to ask your wife.
I don't know. No, we shouldn't do that. We should not do that. But yeah, I love music. Love everything about music. Yeah.
Okay. You have 3 kids.
I do.
Do they go to Jenks?
I'll go in. I always tell my boys, if you can't make it on the mean streets of Jenks, you probably can't make it. So they all go to Jenks.
Okay.
Yep. I'll go to Jenks. And my wife and I, like you, are big believers in the public school system.
Yeah.
And hope that it survives in the state of Oklahoma for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so you're happy as a parent with Jenks schools.
Extremely happy.
Yeah.
We have a superintendent that could, I think, be president of the United States, Stacey Butterfield.
Yeah, she's amazing.
And she could be doing a lot of different things. I would say for people looking to move to Tulsa and specifically to Jenks, you always have to look at the leadership. And there is no better leadership, maybe even in the nation at superintendent level. And a lot of people agree with that, not just me, than Dr. Stacey Butterfield. She's something.
Yeah, she is amazing.
Yeah.
And obviously our schools show that.
So their reflection, being number one, it's hard to be better than number one.
Yeah.
So she's doing a good job.
Well, okay, let's talk about when people Google Tulsa,
Yeah.
it comes up, it can come up as like crime, high crime, and people can get the impression that it is not safe, like per capita. And
Really?
Yeah, if you look at that, it does.
That's shocking to me.
Because why? Why is that shocking? Because you feel safe?
I've lived here for 20 years and never had an incident.
Yeah. Same with me. Like I'll be out anywhere. I never feel unsafe. But there was that show 48 Hours or something, and
Right.
it had like parts of Tulsa in it.
Huh.
So that's really something kind of debunking that myth that Tulsa isn't a safe place, because really it is. So yeah, how do you feel about that? Like you said, you've been here for 20 years.
Yeah, you're knowledgeable only to the extent of your own experience and firsthand. So I wouldn't try to give some wrong answer, but I do a lot of data research, and my team does. And one of the things that we came out with in Jenks, it's one of the safest cities in America. That's been backed up by many researchers. You think about that. We're called the 10 because it's 10 miles from every city, like downtown. So it's 10 miles away. So it's hard for me to believe that it's a dangerous city when our town is 10 miles or less away. Like, that's pretty hard to believe. I was in Little Rock last week meeting with the mayor of Little Rock, and he said they had the same problem. They had a documentary come out a long time ago. You may remember their documentary about North Little Rock. And I think there was a time and place, maybe we had the race riots, and there were some parts of Tulsa that were kind of underdeveloped, and frankly not in a fair way. Just kind of was what it was. But I think a lot of leaders in our community have really poured a lot of energy and money into changing that. And same in Little Rock. Maybe somebody might have that image. I really don't know of anyone in Tulsa that would say it's a dangerous city. I've
Right.
never heard anyone since I've lived here in 20
love
years
that.
say, Tulsa's been dangerous for me. I've never heard of any of my friends being robbed, mugged, ever in 20 years. And I have some really rough friends. As Garth Brooks says, I got friends in some low places, and I've never heard of it.
Yeah. Okay. That's fantastic for the audience to hear. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah. That's a frequently asked question.
It is. That surprises me.
Yeah.
No, Google lies a lot. You know that?
Yeah.
It lies a lot. A lot of fake news.
Yes. A lot of.
I guess.
A lot of Reddit
Shouldn't say that.
threads.
I'm not a big Donald Trump fan, but you know, could we have 2 worst presidential candidates in history? What do you guys think in the studio? Okay, you don't want to comment on it. No one wants to say anything. No, literally no one. I love my new show is going to be walk up to people on the street. You ready for this podcast? Tell people they're coming here to do an interview like this and say, what do you think of the presidential race? Just go right at it. Anyway, but yeah, go ahead. I got you on that one, didn't I?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So segue to.
Yeah.
Okay. Who is your most influential Tulsan? Somebody that has just made a huge impact on you that you admire.
Yeah.
Maybe that you've met or haven't met.
I would say, and I'm not just saying this because she's here, is my business partner, Shay Roach. She was born in Tulsa, has a lot of deep history in Tulsa. Her dad was a well-known attorney here in Tulsa, Tom Mason, a legend at Oklahoma State, kind of just a good old Oklahoma guy, helped a lot of people. And I would say just the Mason family in general, that's her maiden name. She's since married and her last name's Roach. You know her husband has to be a really good guy for her to take on Roach. But I would say that her family are leaders in the community, and they do more for people than anyone I've seen. And that's kind of the Tulsa way, I'd say, a little bit. You still get that here. People that are affluent, well-educated, like the Masons are, Tom Mason, but they still care, like not in some, talk, but like they show they care. And that's the people that I admire, is people that are really community changers. I think you get a lot of that in Tulsa, but Tom Mason, Shay Mason, her maiden name. And so I've learned a lot from that family. And I've been business partners with Shay since 2013.
Okay, I was going to say, how'd you guys meet? What's the history?
Yeah, I have a funny joke for that, but I'm not going to say it on camera. We'll talk later. But I had a mutual acquaintance. He was a guy named Jamie McCoy. He was a junior CFO at a oil and gas company, and Shay did some consulting work with him. And she's was formerly a partner with PricewaterhouseCoopers and Libran. It was top 3 accounting firm. She was one of the youngest female partners, and he told me, he goes, "You need to meet this girl. You need her." And I said, "I don't need anybody." And when I met her, I was like, wow, she's the smartest person I've ever met. So we became partners. In 2013, we've been in a lot of cool places, done a lot of cool things.
That is awesome.
I try to partner with smart females. It's the
smart.
secret.
Yeah.
Because they'll kill anyone that gets in their way. Literally. They'll kill people. You know, the lions, the females are the hunters, right? So that's how it goes. Go ahead. What are you going to say?
Shay, I was going to ask you, what is your favorite area of Tulsa? Like your favorite part of Tulsa?
I live in Midtown, and I was brought up here. I love it, but I will say, obviously, I'd say the quaintness of Jenks is probably a second for me. I love the drive from Midtown to Jenks through the gathering place. So I love the commute to Jenks, and I love it when I get out in Jenks, and I really appreciate their attention to education with their school district, and then the quaintness of the street with all the new beautiful houses and the developments around there.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, and sorry to call you out on that, but after knowing that she is, your most influential
She's one of my
person you admire,
best friends I've ever had, and her family means a whole lot to me.
Fantastic.
And they kind of, to me, embrace the spirit of Tulsa.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that can wrap it up, unless you have anything to add.
I don't. I really, I do have this to add. You came down to Jenks, and you did a video on Jenks. And I remember thinking, a lot of people do a lot of videos, right, about different stuff. And I feel like some of them don't even know what they're doing. They're just like trying to get views or whatever. I'd say for the person that's looking to come to Tulsa, you really did your homework. And I know you put a lot of energy into that. because you can't just, there's no AI system that I'm aware of that can just get that going, which you did. And I want to commend you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Because you nailed it.
Thank you.
I think for the viewers out there that listen to your channel, they probably need to understand how much work you put into it, and you're credible.
Well, thank you. I
You're welcome.
appreciate that very much.
And you're not paying me, right?
I'm not paying you,
All
but
right.
maybe I should.
Maybe. We'll see how many people watch this.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for having me.